Hello, in today's video I'm going to be going over the absolute best place to have a workshop, the most profitable place to have a workshop, and which town specifically is going to have the best place to have a workshop in order to make the absolute most profit with. So let's just jump right into it. So this tutorial, before I really dive into things, this tutorial is not meant to be a full comprehensive workshop tutorial, but I will have one of those in the future, so feel free to subscribe to the channel so when my full workshop tutorial does come out, you make sure to stay tuned for that. But anyways, let's just get straight into it and let me go over what I think the absolute best places for a workshop are going to be. But one question you may have initially is, how did I figure out which workshops will be the most profitable in what areas, and what am I using to calculate the profitability of workshops? Well, for one, I individually went through every single city, looked at all the villages around every single city, and determined what they had the most inputs of. So, for example, if I just go to, let's say, Amititis, or however you say this city, I'm not sure. You just look at the cities and say, oh, Alipa has grain, Vassos has palfrey, which isn't good for anything. But then you look at Amazon, they have sheep, Thorios, olives, silver ore. And basically what I did was go through every single one of these cities from Jalmaris, Amititis, Lycerone, Zionica. I went through all these individual cities, found out what villages are producing around them, and determined what inputs they have the most of and why. And basically, I looked at all their inputs and saw which workshop would be best. And since every workshop takes its individual inputs, such as a wood workshop taking in hardwood, smith taking in iron, silversmith taking in silver, brewery taking grain. If you look at all the inputs of a village around a city, you will see which they have the most of and which will end up being the most profitable because they have cheap inputs. And if you have cheap inputs, you can make manufactured goods from those inputs. So that will end up being what makes you the most profit. So, once again, restating what I did, I went through the entire map of Calradia and saw which city has its individual inputs and, what inputs are around each and every single one of the city, all the way from Ostakan to Odok and to Iakis to Sabir or Tial. I went through every single city and found out which village has the most inputs. Which has the most inputs for every single item. And what I did, I put all of that into a spreadsheet and I determined through all of them which one has the most inputs for what, and which ones are the absolute best cities to have a producing workshop in, and what kind of workshop would produce the best given the inputs that are around a city. Okay, so let's just jump into my top 3 cities and what the best workshop will be in the entire game within these cities, and which cities you should put them in, and what's going to be the best workshop. So let's start with Askar. Askar currently has Zalm, which produces grain, Katir Hatif, which is irrelevant because it produces horses, but it has Mabwaz, which produces grain, in Kednar, which also produces grain. This gives it one of the most inputs for grain out of every single other city on the map. And given this would make having a brewery in Askar the absolute most profitable. And out of top 4 or top 5 best workshops to have due to having extremely good access to inputs to produce alcohol in, or beer. So that's what makes Askar one of the top cities to have a workshop in, and what will lead to having the most profitable workshop in Calradia. Okay, the second most profitable workshop is going to be a wool weavery in Baltic Han. Karahali, Dinar, and I believe Visnar Fisnar, Dinar, and Karahali are all Kurjit or Herjit, are all Herjit villages, and the closest town to them is Baltic Hand. So that means Baltic Han, or Baltic Hand, or however you want to say it, has 3 wool input villages into it. So that would make a wool weavery the absolute best workshop to have in Baltic Hand, and one of the best workshops in Kauradia, because all the inputs are nearby, they're cheap because they're nearby, and you can also ship that, and it's also just has a ton of inputs, which will make it extremely profitable because you can turn all those inputs and cheap inputs around it into mere profit. So that makes it one of the best workshops in Kauradia. My third best city for having the best workshop is going to be Jacqueline. Jacqueline, has Alorston, Aromac, and Talaville. It has Talaville, Alorstan, and Aromac. All these villages are the closest to it, and villagers go to the city to sell their goods that they produce. And since these 3 are the main production are olives, having an olive or oil press in Jacqueline would make it the absolute most profitable, because cheap inputs make manufacturing goods really cheap, and then you can sell those goods. And oil is really good selling, so this may be one of the most profitable workshops to have due to the inputs around it. And it's important whenever you're trying to make a workshop, no matter where it happens to be, that you put it where inputs are. So basically, if you want to do this yourself, but I've already compiled an entire spreadsheet of every city, the villages around it, and what inputs are around it in order to make the absolute most profit possible. And keep in mind, the more inputs, it's like I keep stressing this point over and over again, but the more inputs that are around a city, the more profitable your workshops will be. So it's important to see which one has the most inputs. And so far, Jacqueline, Askar, and Baltic Hand have 3 distinct inputs all around it from villages, has 3 inputs that go into the city. And this is more than countless other cities out there, as most cities only have 1 individual village and there's like a multitude of resources. But if you can find these villages like I have, or just use my information that I did for you, if you find these villages, you'll be able to figure out which ones will be most profitable given the inputs. So it's also important to keep note of the current situation, whether it's at war, what's it doing, because that also has a major impact on your workshops. But overall, these places will be the greatest places to put all your workshops, because you have the most inputs, cheapest, and it'll be easy to make the absolute most profit because you have the most inputs to produce your stuff. So anyways, if you want more information on what I think the best cities are, feel free to comment below. I can give you some of the information from the spreadsheet I made, or maybe even link the spreadsheet. But if you made it this far, I appreciate you. And if you heard that, congratulations. You just got access to a whole wealth of information that I haven't really shared anywhere else. But this tutorial, I'm going to conclude this tutorial by saying thank you guys for watching. I highly appreciate it. And I really hoped I could help you find the absolute best place and absolute best workshops that you could possibly make. Thank you for watching. This has been Dro Blue.